Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ship Talk. My name is Jared, co-founder of Logistic, where we help companies better monitor, manage, and reduce their shipping costs. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Brian, to discuss, what are we talking about?
Early termination language. Oh my gosh.
Brian, you spent 26 years at UPS.
I do. Oh man.
You know a thing or two about early term language.
I do.
So what is early term language and how does it work?
So early termination language is contractual language that the carriers include in their pricing agreements, whereby they can assess an early termination fee if the customer breaches the contract, let's say.
What does breach the contract mean?
It usually means if they divert their business for any reason outside of a business downturn or anything else, if they divert their business to another carrier, whether it's USPS or UPS, any carrier, if that business starts to leave and they still have the business, but it's going on with another carrier, they could invoke the early term penalty fee.
So let's say I'm a shipper. I ship approximately $1 million a year. We'll just use UPS in this example.
Yeah.
And UPS gives me a revised agreement with some improved discounts.
Yep.
How exactly does it work? So they would put something in there in which I'm committing to keep my business with UPS for a period of time?
Yeah, so there's language in the contract with UPS. It's usually an addendum that you sign. It's got a minimum commitment, and then there's early termination language. The early termination language is usually runs anywhere from 52 weeks all the way up to 3 years, or the life or the term of the agreement, or the terms of the agreement, which are usually up to 3 years. And it basically states that if for any reason the business is basically diverted, let's say, that they can assess an early termination fee.
Okay, so if I were to, during, let's say it's a 3-year period, if I were to take my business and give it to Fedex during that 3-year period, then they would charge me how? Or they would apply a fee?
They could present an invoice or a bill to you for whatever that percentage, or if there's a dollar amount tied to it or a percentage. UPS is typically a percent. It's usually 2%, 1.5 to 2% of your 52-week spend. So if you spend $1 million, they'll take 2% and present you with a bill for that amount.
Okay, and let's just keep using UPS in this example, but let's say my spend was expected to be $1 million a year, each of those 3 years.
Right.
And I gave half of my business to FedEx. Would that early termination fee still apply?
It would, yes.
Okay, so is there a threshold or a cutoff typically?
No, if you're diverting your business and
any of it,
and you're not hitting that commitment, the commitment that's stated in the contract, the early termination fee.
Okay, now what about if my business just declines over the natural course of business? So let's say COVID hits and my customers stop ordering product from me and I am shipping half as much. Would they still charge me an early termination fee?
That would not be a good business reason for them to assess the early termination fee, and it would probably not go over very well if they did. But no, that's not one of the reasons that they would.
Okay.
It's really there to prevent customers from diverting their business.
Okay. And when do we typically see UPS and or FedEx include this early termination language? Are there certain circumstances where they like to include it?
Yeah, we'll see it more often when there's a competitive threat. So if you're a UPS shipper and FedEx comes in and decides that they want to make a bid for your business and you allow them, and then you tell UPS, hey, FedEx is here, bidding on my business. It's, I don't know if you want to do something with your current pricing to help us out or, be competitive against a threat. That's usually when the carriers will include it in their pricing.
Okay. So it's not included all the time. It sounds like it's kind of a case by case.
Yeah. And a lot of times with larger shippers, multi-million-dollar shippers, we'll see it sometimes. But for the most part, it's typically when there's a pretty solid competitive threat that comes in, they'll include that language in there.
Okay. So why would a shipper not want to sign this? Why does it not make sense for a shipper to commit to early termination language?
It could limit your options if the UPS decides they don't want to deliver your packages on time and you start having operational issues, or they don't want to pick up on time, or there's whatever the case is, and your packages are basically your time in transit and deliveries are interrupted, and you want to switch to another carrier. In this case, it would be FedEx. You want to be able to have that opportunity to make that switch and be agile. So you want your contract to be open and make sure you have opportunities to do what's right for your business. Signing early termination language is not necessarily something that's that's positive for your business. The only time I could think where you don't have an issue signing early termination language is if you've been with the carrier for several years and you don't expect to make a switch, and you would basically say, I would never ever switch to another carrier. But even then, we've had customers say that before, and lo and behold, they'll switch for the right amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that a little more, because it seems that what the carriers are attempting to do by including early termination language is they're looking for the shipper to make a commitment, but there are certain unknown variables, such as some of the things that you mentioned, but also another big one is the annual rate increase, right? And so the carriers are saying, we want you to commit to us, but you're basically committing to an unknown, because me as a shipper, I could sign early termination language right now, and then 3 months down the road, the carriers could roll out their annual rate increase, and there could be something in that increase that affects me dramatically as a shipper. Let's just say one of the accessorials fees goes up 100%, and then I'm handcuffed.
Right.
Because I signed this early termination language.
You don't have any options. Yep. You're not leaving yourself any options by signing early termination language.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you're committing to an unknown, right? And so therefore, I know you always recommend not signing early termination language. So what can a shipper do then when presented with early termination language by UPS and or FedEx?
The best thing to do is to push back, obviously, and give the reasons of, if you don't have early termination language in your current agreement, and you've been partnered with this particular carrier, if it's UPS and you've had a long-standing relationship with them, there's absolutely no reason to sign early termination language because of the partnership you've built, and you've already shown and proven that you're a loyal customer to them. So there's no reason. On the flip side, if they are including early termination language and you've had that long-standing partnership, you could go back and say, basically, it looks like you don't trust the fact that we've got this partnership, where I trust that we've got this great partnership, but there's absolutely no reason to have early termination language in an agreement where I've been a customer of yours for several years. That's probably the best way to do it. One is you got to push back. You have to push back on it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is you don't have to sign it just because the carrier presents that or puts that in front of a shipper. You don't have to sign it. And it sounds like there are some reasons or some logic that can be presented back to the carrier as to why it doesn't make sense.
Yep. There's good business reasons. I mean, unless the carrier can guarantee that, the rates are going to only increase by a certain amount, and the surcharges aren't going to go, and you're not going to introduce new surcharges that are going to dramatically impact me or my costs.
Which is difficult for the carriers to commit to on the front end.
Yep.
And I know you're happy to talk through if anybody has any questions on how to respond to the carrier when presented with early termination language.
Yep.
You're happy to talk through some of the different strategies that
Absolutely.
you employ. Well, great, Bri. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. For more information on how you can join the thousands of businesses nationwide currently using Logistic to monitor, manage, and reduce shipping costs, please visit our website at www.logistic.com, where you can create a free account. Till next time, take care.